You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and to push the conversation, let's listen to this background report by Timothy Yusuf.
Nigerians signing up to fight in foreign wars is no longer just whispers. It's now making headlines, especially after a Nigerian was reportedly caught fighting on the side of a country in one of the wars. That revelation has sparked serious concerns and raised plenty of eyebrows. Let's start with the legal angle. In many countries, including Nigeria, joining a foreign army without approval is no small matter. It could get one arrested or even jailed. Most times they are treated like mercenaries or, worse still, terrorists. That means no special treatment under international law if caught. Then there is the humanitarian side. These young people might be promised glory, but the reality is that many of them face torture, abuse, or worse if captured. On the diplomatic front, it's even messier when citizens from neutral countries take part in foreign wars. It could spark tension with other nations. It might look like their countries taking sides in someone else's battle. Now to the heart of the matter, national security. When these fighters come back home, they don't just return with stories. They may return with battle skills, trauma, or even dangerous ideologies. That's a security nightmare waiting to happen. So, countries including Nigeria are now rethinking how to stop this trend and manage its ripple effects. To tackle this head-on, the Nigerian government says it's rolling out a full-scale awareness campaign. The goal is to educate citizens, especially the youth, on the legal, political, and personal risk of joining foreign military forces. Because at the end of the day, prevention is better than crisis control. Our guests will join us shortly to dive deeper into these issues. Stay with us.
All right, many thanks, Timothy Yusuf, for that background report. And to begin this conversation, let me start by introducing here in the studio Dr. Kabiru Adamu, who is a security risk management expert. Always a pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
The pleasure is mine, Victor. Good morning.
All right, let me also welcome Dr. Adoyi Matthew O'Malley, who is an international relations expert. Many thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And also join us via Zoom from Jos is Brigadier General John Temlong, Pioneer Commander, Multinational Joint Task Force. We thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Good morning.
I want to start with you. I'll stay with you on the Zoom, General Temlong. Why should Nigerians or Nigeria be concerned about this trend?
Well, thank you very much. In fact, they say once bitten, twice shy. You find out a situation where Nigerian troops were recruited by the Libyan government then under Colonel Gaddafi, who fought alongside with Libyans until the government collapsed. And after the collapse of that government, a lot of those fighters came back to Nigeria with dangerous weapons, with dangerous skills, dangerous ideological ideas, dangerous mindsets, and they joined the Boko Haram, and you could see the havoc that they created in this country. Those weapons that they brought couldn't have been imported here by those terrorists. But because of the fact that the Libyan armory was left open, you know that Libya had more weapons than the number of people living in Libya at that time. So those Libyans' armory was just left open, and they cutted as much as they could and brought them back. So it became a very serious national security issue. One, it became a source of weapons for the terrorists, Boko Haram, and also a source of skilled manpower who have had combat experience in the Libyan crisis to add up to the local manpower that the Boko Haram had here. So it's quite disturbing that when you have young Nigerians joining foreign armies there, one, it's quite appealing to them because of the monetary gains that they get. Two, that they are going out to foreign countries But what happens to them there is that once they join those armies, once they are introduced to those armies, 2, they are not treated as citizens of those countries. And 3, if they are captured, how do you go about it? Is it the Nigerian government that will intervene? Because Nigeria has remained neutral in those crises. And 4, for the fact that they are Nigerians, you cannot exonerate yourself of having tacitly supported or supporting the country against the other. So that even affects your diplomatic relations with that involved.
Perspectives. So far, we'll get back to you in a bit, but let's get here in the studio and to Dr. Kabir Adamu. Now, beyond the perspectives espoused by General John Temlong, what risks do returning combatants like those pose to national security? Are we talking about radicalization or other related issues?
Thank you very much once again for having me. The risks are enormous, but I would focus on the security risk, which both your correspondent, who started the program with the report, and then General Temlong spoke. The war or the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is one that is rooted in several components of international relations, and I'm sure our guest here, with an expert in international relations, will probably speak about that. And we were all living witnesses to effort by both countries, actually, Ukraine and Russia, to recruit foreign soldiers. They advertised here in Nigeria, mainly online and through other means. And then we saw Nigerians responding. This was last year. Actually, from the time the war started about 2 years ago into last year, those adverts were all over the place on social media and then in different fora. And we saw Nigerians responding, perhaps in another form of the Japa syndrome. Questions were asked about how much they will be paid, and then miraculously you will see answers emerging on social media to tell you how much you paid. And a lot of youth responded. So the first risk is this desire of the youth component. Let's not forget the demography of youth in Nigeria. Almost about 70% of the population in Nigeria are youth, and a significant number of them are out of jobs. Now, add that to the cultural desire to migrate to another country. In this instance, to a place where conflict is going on. So risk number 1, the core of our interest, our national interest, which is our citizens, are migrating to a location of conflict. And thirdly, to both countries, they are migrating to Russia, they are also migrating to Ukraine. Now, the second component is what are they involved in? The nature of the conflict is significant. As a country, we need to monitor how warfare has changed significantly. For the first time in the world, we're seeing a warfare that everybody at the beginning thought would be ground-based. Now it is significantly air warfare using drones. So they are learning that. Some of them are actively involved. Others are supporting in maybe not necessarily primary components, in secondary and even tertiary purposes. So that is a skill set they are acquiring. And with all sense of responsibility, it is something that as a country we haven't come to terms with in terms of this changed nature of warfare. Combat, yeah. Just to give you an example, before this war started, the conventional unmanned aerial vehicles that was being used uses signals. So if there are anti-drone measures that would be able to jam those signals and then you bring the drone down. But because of the changing nature of warfare, they now use other means, as like not necessarily signal, so that even if you're attempting to jam that drone, you would not be able to jam it. Both countries are doing that. Now, these are skill sets that those people are learning, and they are going to come back to it. And the greatest risk for me is our inability as a country to have documented those who moved out. Because if we have done that,
to those places,
by the time they are coming back, we'll be able to debrief them and, in fact, find things for them to do. But we failed in doing that, It's a missed opportunity, actually.
Indeed. I was going to say that.
It's a missed opportunity.
If we had done that, we need those skill sets.
Even though we didn't send them.
Yes, but they are our citizens, and eventually, one way or the other, they're going to come back. One way or the other, either directly or through what the technology they are going to transfer. They are going to post on social media. People are going to see it. Their family members, people, youths who are currently looking for jobs are going to see it. So that's number two. Number three is the international relations. Even though General did say that we're neutral, in some instances we're not. We've mentioned critically and in very clear terms that we're against foreign aggression of the type that happened in Ukraine. Nigeria is very clear about that, and I think the expert in international relations will probably speak more about that. So how would our relationship between the two countries pan out, depending on which direction the country that arrested the Nigerian takes? If they treat him as a prisoner of war, fine and good for us. But what if they decide to treat him as a mercenary? How are we going to handle that? And then the fourth component, rather, is what will be the consequence in terms of our future relationship with happenings within our geopolitics. At the moment, and I think not too long ago, in either Mali or Burkina Faso, there was a spat between the two countries, Russia and Ukraine. And Nigeria had to take a very clear position, because what would likely happen going forward is a proxy war between the two countries, unless if Trump fulfills his promise to end the conflict, which so far has not happened. So if that not happen, we're likely to see a proxy war within our very close axis, within the Sahel, between these two countries. Now, given the fact that a Nigerian is in the custody of one of the countries, what position do we take? If we do, how will that country react to that Nigerian and probably other Nigerians that they would arrest going forward? Again, let's not forget that there are Nigerians in Russia, there are also Nigerians in Ukraine. So the risks are enormous. And I think it's absolutely important that as a country, we find ways. We've missed the opportunity, but it's not too late to start documenting the number of Nigerians that are involved in that war, and understand, of course, when they come back, debrief them, understand what skill sets they learned, so that the ones we can harness and take advantage of, we do.
But isn't it, if we decide to see the opportunities, doesn't that get the country more involved in a way that is opposed to its non-aligned status through, over time?
We're already involved. Pretending we're not involved, I think, is missing the point. Like I said, active adverts were done to recruit Nigerians.
I saw so many.
What could the country have done about that, stopping those?
Well, even if we didn't stop them, we could have documented them.
Yes.
This is the point I'm making.
We needed data.
Yeah, to know who they are. Because you can't have a situation where your citizens, especially youths, are moving to a country where in a conflict zone. I mean, recently, and I must commend the media for what they did. I saw a group of media practitioners going to that country to document happenings in that country from the perspective of Nigerian media. So point is that there are avenues for intelligence. I keep on saying that one of the things that we learned from the conflict between Ukraine and Russia is the role of what is called open source intelligence, OSINT, which has become a key component of intelligence. We saw how non-public intelligence players played a key role in understanding, in fact, before Russia attacked, the information came from OSINT. So point I'm trying to make, if the Nigerian intelligence community would need to expand its collection capabilities. If you and I, and everybody probably listening, had from open sources this recruitment drive, what stopped us at that point from also putting in place measures to identify, document, and profile those that were going outside? Don't forget that before they go outside, they collect visas. So it was a very good avenue to engage and understand, okay, you're going
You're going to a war zone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I have been to,
Victor,
this period, I've been to Russia
Omale.
this period, and it wouldn't matter.
Yes.
But from the point of view
yes.
of the engagement as an immigration officer, or or at the point of departure, you'll be able to. You've traveled. They engage with you. They ask you where you're going to. Now you could lie about it, but if I am, an immigration official trained, I see the demography, I see the skill sets the person has, I should be able to determine what the person is going to do. But point is, let's not miss the point. Profiling and documenting our citizens who are going into conflict zones to serve in warfare skill sets is very important, and we should not miss that opportunity.
It's very important, and you already said that we missed the point at the very beginning. And talking about international reputation and diplomatic fallout, Dr. Omale, let me come to you. How does this trend affect Nigeria's global image out there?
Well, this issue of our citizens joining foreign army affects our global image significantly. It shows that something is wrong somewhere. And it's very worrisome because if our citizens are going to share technology or to acquire skills or to do some other things, it will be understandable. But since they are going to join foreign armies, it becomes very, very worrisome. We are looking towards having international peace and security, and not to contribute to inflame a war situation. So it's really worrisome. But again, this act is governed by several laws, both international law, both agreements between countries, international agreements, and also national laws. So you cannot divorce national law, international law, and also international agreements. Some go as a result of agreements that a particular country could have entered with another country. For example, Korea sent troops to Russia to fight on the side of the Russian army. And this was agreement entered between North Korea and Russia. So to that extent, you can see that even countries get involved. In this, our own instance, it is individuals that are involved, not necessarily
the government.
Not necessarily the government. And that is where at least our government is a bit safe. Nobody can hold our government responsible because as my colleague has said, adverts were put on the internet and people responded. Now, the Geneva Convention frowns at recruiting mercenaries, okay, in this case. But the difference between this is that even the French Legion, even the U.S. Army, they recruit foreigners. But first, they have to give you citizenship. And that is the departure. And that is where, I think that is the catch for our Nigerian citizens. Because the easiest way they can get the citizenship of this country is to agree to be enlisted into the army. And once you are enlisted into the army, it is assumed that you have acquired the citizenship of that country. I have a lot of friends that are in the United States Army, and they are Nigerians. In the case of the British, the United Kingdom Army, they also, their law do not permit just to take somebody from another country into the armed forces. But once you acquire the citizenship of that country, there's nothing wrong in doing that.
But that takes time. Citizenship is not acquired in
No,
a
but
day or two.
with you joining the military, it's almost automatic.
Neither will you. They are not likely to take someone who, for instance, I just migrate to Ukraine or Russia, and then I become, I join the army. It takes time. They have to know you.
Yes, but just like he has said, once you have agreed and you are going to be fighting on the side of that country, in most time you have to be granted that citizenship, that is where the catch. That is the motivating factor for Nigerians. Some of the Nigerian boys that are going there, they are motivated because it is the faster way of acquiring this citizenship. Because for them to be able to integrate you into the armed forces, they have to give something. And that citizenship is one of the bait that is very attractive to those that are being recruited. So when they give you that citizenship, you now have dual citizenship. Now the problem is that the Nigerian law does not frown at dual citizenship. So you can still be a citizen of Nigeria as well as carry a passport of another country. What we need to do, I am happy in the prologue, in your prologue, it was stated that it is not, the army is embarking on a public enlightenment to dissuade youth from going into foreign army, to go, because some people go as a result of adventure. Actually, some of the youths, because of what they have heard about foreign countries, because they feel that life there is good, some people just want to go and see.
And some of them were already students studying in Russia. I mean, in
yes,
those
in the
countries,
case of
Kende
Oloromeleke, he was in Russian prison, and part of the deal, the condition is that if he joins the army and fight on the side of the Russian troop, his prison sentence was going to be mitigated, and that to him that's what he said was the attraction. So you can see how these things are done.
Freedom.
So some of them do not necessarily leave the shores of the country wanting to go and join the army.
some of them were already there.
Some of them were already there, either studying or doing one thing or business or something, and then circumstances were around their joining.
Okay, the key points of Article 47 about mercenaries said they are not entitled to combatant or prisoner of war status if captured during international armed conflict. Are they educated on this aspect of it before they join as mercenaries?
We are looking at it from two dimensions.
Okay.
Now. We are looking at the dimension of joining an army, and we are looking at the dimension of mercenary.
Yes.
They are two different things.
Yes.
Mercenaries are those that are recruited for a particular operation. They may not necessarily be in the army. Okay? For example, the Wagner group, for example, is a mercenary group. It's not the official army of Russia, but it is isolated. So Wagner can be recruited by any government or anybody to fight, like they operated in Mali, they operated even in the Sahel region, they operated in Ukraine.
I asked this question because some of them that were captured, were they given citizenship of that country, or were they
No,
just
if it's a mercenary operation, you don't necessarily need to have citizenship of that country. You were just paid as a mercenary. And the Geneva Convention is very clear on the status of mercenary. That's why I say we should not confuse being recruited officially into a country's armed forces and being recruited as a mercenary. Even terrorists recruit these young people as mercenaries or as terrorists, okay? And they fight on the side of either ISIS or Al-Qaeda or any of the terrorist groups that you have. But that is a different ball game. And that is, on those ones, the Geneva Convention has nothing to do with them, because they were recruited specifically as mercenary for specific operations, and when you are caught, you'll be so treated as a mercenary. But if you are properly recruited into the armed forces of a sovereign, independent state army, and you are engaged in warfare, definitely you will be treated as a prisoner of war, because the two statuses are different. The status of a mercenary is different from the status. For example, if in the Israeli army, for example, over 200 or 300 Americans, more than 200 Americans were recruited. Jews, American Jews, served in the Israeli army. So it is allowed for you to recruit people officially into the army, but they must acquire your passport or your citizenship.
But given that in this case, it was an open recruitment drive.
Yes.
Not necessarily a Nigerian thing. They did it across
the world,
many countries, across the world. Can this then, in international relations, be held against a particular country?
Yes, that's what I said, that it cannot, because the countries were not directly involved in this recruitment. Individuals, an appeal was made to individuals in their capacity as individuals. And if they so wish, it's just like you applying for a visa. You apply for a visa going to a particular country, nobody knows what you are going to do there. It's only the country that you would have said, okay, I'm going for business, or I'm going for studies, or I'm going for this. So to that extent, the country may not necessarily be held liable. But if, like I said, if there are military exchange agreements because if there are international agreements between two countries to support military collaboration and so on. And part of the collaboration is that you can, in terms of war, for example, in NATO, an attack on a particular NATO member is an attack on all. So they can pool their military resources together to support a member state. But in this case, it is different. If a Nigerian is recruited into the Ukrainian army, for example, or the Russian army, for example, the Nigerian state may not or should not be held liable for that, because the Nigerian state was not involved in the recruitment or in sending of the troops to that particular country. But indirectly, the country, the recruiting country may frown at Nigeria, because to them it has allowed these citizens to happen. And that is why I like the way the Nigerian government is trying to sensitize the citizens. Yes, it looks very good. Young people wanting to go abroad, wanting to take to make money, wanting to take adventure, and so on. But it has a ripple effect. By extension, what it means is that, and you see, some of these people go on ideological basis. They go to these military assignments or escapades, also be radicalized. So if they believe in a cause, for example, and maybe take, for example, the Gaza Israeli conflict, and some people feel strongly that, oh, there is injustice in that conflict against the Palestine. And that individual might say, okay, what is happening in that conflict, I don't like it, and I want to participate in it. I want to help either the Israelis or the Palestinians. And the young man decides to say, okay, let me go and fight on the side of any of the parties. So how do you hold the government accountable for that? So I don't think it's so, but we need to sensitize our citizens. It's not right for young people to go and take bullets for another country for whatever reason, because you have your own country, you need to defend your own territorial integrity. You need also to we need your skills and your manpower to develop our own economy. But if you opt to go and fight or to go and enhance the security of another country, then there's a problem somewhere. And we need to be very, very clear on that, and we need to take decisive steps to ensure that our citizens are not caught doing such things.
Indeed, they are not caught doing such things. And don't forget, you can join this conversation via text messages. We're expecting your text messages and your response to the conversation here in the studio. We heard that General Temlong is back, there. We're talking about evidence-based, issues now on this issue that's really affecting the Nigerian society. Young boys, young girls leaving the country to go and fight for others in their country. So what steps should the Nigerian military take to identify and stop this enlistment before they get out of control?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's not a Nigerian military affair. It should be a national affair, because it's dealing with the whole world of national security and the Nigerian state itself, because it affects both our foreign relations with some of these countries, and then our productive youth going out there to do those things. You see, it's unfortunate that sometimes people misunderstand. Open sources of intelligence has been there for long. And that's what the diplomats are supposed to be doing. If you go and start spying and doing other things, is what they call incompatibility with your status, and they send you away. So it means that even those countries that are here have their own sources of intelligence, apart from the open sources. Like you put those things on the media or on the social media, they see it. And they see sometimes they contact the Nigerian government and say, look, we have seen that your youth are being recruited into this foreign army to go and fight against us. So I think what we need to do is a whole set of things that the National Orientation Agency, the state governments, the local governments, the traditional rulers, the religious rulers should be involved. It should be an all-encompassing thing. One is that we are trying to see that we get our Nigerians to understand what citizenship is all about and what patriotism is all about. As against what we have today is that you have a group of nation states within a nation, because each tribe now sees itself as a nation, and the loyalty and the rest is more to the religious group. And that's the example that you could see that when people go out there based on ideological facts or religious, they come back with those ideas and try to implement them in this country. So I think it's a holistic approach that we need to do to discourage our youth from going that. But once you are doing that, you must provide an alternative for them. Like we said, it is the age of adventure is where they are now. And so they want to actualize their full potentials. So is there a way that we can now provide that alternative for them to stop them from going out there to get those adventure? Yes, there are. And I think we could try so many. They haven't tried it many. We have crisis in our hands. Yes, the Youth Service Corps is there. We have advocated that it should be reinvigorated and made a little bit more a quasi-military thing or a paramilitary thing to give those chaps some adventure that they're able to serve. We need to look at the situation of having citizens who should be recruited in the armed forces as reservists, who can do our training during breaks or during certain periods like they do in US, and then call out for duty as and the rest. So we need to provide those opportunities for our youth to prevent them, or to not to prevent, you can't prevent it, but to dissuade them from going out to test those things. It's quite simple. Somebody is applying for a visa to a country. They are not applying to the Nigerian immigration for a visa. So it's not something that you say the Nigerian immigration will keep a track on. What they used to do is that they know is that some of them travel out to Benin Republic, to Togo, Ghana, and fly out there. They have the visa to fly out to those countries. So they don't make it so easy for people to start tracking the way we think about it. Nigerian immigration services are not in the visa section of those countries. Those countries know what they want. So what they do is that they recruit. So I think having a track on them is not as easy as saying that, look, we'll keep a track on them as they move. The only thing we might try to do, like I say, is dissuade them and make sure that you don't allow this recruitment go on, even online or anything. It's quite difficult that even in the UK, Al-Qaeda recruited people online. So it's quite difficult, but we have to keep track of this and be ahead of them. It's part of the cyber warfare that is being engaged in. So I think it's a fifth generation warfare thing that you have to work on the mind, you have to work on the space that they use, the cyber, and you have to make sure that you provide alternative for them so that they are able to be gainfully employed, gainfully get their adventure, gainfully actualize their potentials here. And that way you can be able to dissuade them from going. In fact, rather you are going to be inviting people to come. And so that's the important thing that you have to do. It must be a holistic approach. Provide alternative, dissuade them, and make sure that you train and you keep talking to them holistically. That way we'll be able to help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General John Temlong. Back here in the studio, let me get back to Dr. Kabir Adamu. Now, he's talked about causative factors, why a Nigerian would not join the Nigerian army and want to join another country's army, for instance. But what does this say about citizenship education? I know that as a citizen, you have rights, but you also have duties to the country. What does it say about citizenship education And what does it say about family values and orientation?
A lot. There are, I would say, pull and push factors. And so understanding the current circumstances in Nigeria, a lot of what you've discussed, I think, will fall under social and cultural considerations. I always refer to the report that is annually published by the African Polling Institute on social cohesion. And thirdly, I think consistently over almost a decade now, we have been scored below the global standard. Our score ranges around 40%, and I think the global standard should start from 50, which means our social cohesion is acceptable globally. Like I said, consistently we've been below that 50. So that means there are huge issues. And what that report does is to identify those issues. If I'm right, about 2 weeks ago, that of 2025 was published. And it received significant attention. It identified the reasons why we have issues around social cohesion, some of them rooted in socio-economic circumstances, political, security, name them. But I think the greatest one for me is the family unit. What role is the family unit playing in terms of shaping the mindset of the young ones that are coming up? Do they understand the concept of values, good and bad values, as it were? Do they understand their responsibility first to themselves, and then secondly their families, and then of course to their communities? So that's critical, and I think consistently we've seen challenges with that. That notion of a family unit instilling good values on children is defective in several areas of Nigeria. I don't want to associate it with a particular ethnic group, but I think it's a thing that has affected almost all the ethnic groups and the communities across Nigeria. So that's number one. Number two, let's move to the educational institutions, their role. Growing up as a child, I'm sure most of us here did social studies, and we were taught civic responsibilities. Is that the case today? How many of our kids actually attend schools where civic responsibilities are taught to them in a manner that they actually understand what civic responsibility is? Now, even where the schools do that, what of the challenge of the responsibility on the side of the authorities, for instance, to provide certain social amenities, which questions now what the child has been taught? He's been taught, for instance, that there is a responsibility on the side of the authority to provide ABC, but then the reality is that he doesn't see that. So it depends now on the ability of that educational institution to teach in a manner that the child now appreciates that no, the reality may not be the case, but theoretically this is what is supposed to happen. And let's not forget that for some of these kids who have grown up in recent times, they didn't have the experience that we had, where in our times we actually saw, I'm being careful what I'm saying, a functional government that was providing those services.
And a functional family system.
So we were able to say, okay, this is what is the best practice, and then this is unfortunately what we're experiencing right now is not best practice. For a lot of them, they don't have that experience. They grow up in private schools, private hospitals, generators as providing powers in their house. So that notion of public responsibility is a bit alien to them. And so it's very difficult, even when some educational institutions are trying their best to teach them, for them to now appreciate, that this is the reality, this is what it should be. So that's number two. Number three is the notion of religious institutions themselves. What role are those religious institutions playing in terms of instilling civic responsibilities in their followership? Thirdly, we do have some of them that are actually creating parallel governments. And of course there are several instances. I wouldn't want to mention names, but we know of some few religious institutions have been banned in the country, principally because of that. And so you have that challenge. The third point is the community, which Jumai did mention. that they themselves, unfortunately, in certain instances, we have a situation in Nigeria today where communities have created what I would call parallel governments. And because of the level of intercommunal conflict in Nigeria, you see that lack of harmony existing. So this is a mix of factors, almost all the influence factors. I haven't spoken about social media and the role that social media is also playing in affecting the value system of the young person. Then add to that the failure of some government structures to play their role. General Temlong mentioned National Orientation Agency, but I'm very happy. Recently, we've seen a reinvigoration of that function within that agency. But there was a time when, with all sense of responsibility, that agency was comatose. We didn't see it playing its role. So add all of this mixed together. That's why this issue of civic responsibility, unfortunately, is extremely low in Nigeria at the moment. And anyone who is really interested in understanding it should pick that report by African Polling Institute and read the social cohesion component of that report. You will understand clearly why we are at where we are at the moment in terms of our value systems, the civic responsibilities that are the average Nigerian. And we need to change that. We don't have any other country but Nigeria. Every Nigerian should understand his civic responsibilities and advocate as best as you can. Even if, for instance, you acquire dual citizenship, but you still have a stake in Nigeria. Your primary purpose and responsibility should be to support and nurture a Nigeria that you'll be proud of, that you can hand over. For instance, I'm very happy with the new national anthem, especially some of the stanzas in it that speaks to that. So again, I think General Temlong has really captured that very well. It must be an all-of-government and all-of-society approach where we speak about the essence of civic responsibility. But at the same time, we must also ensure that the responsibility on the part of the public authorities is also visible to the average Nigerian. Because no matter how you speak to these things, if the average Nigerian cannot relate to it in terms of the reality that he lives with on a day-to-day basis, then it will be very difficult for especially the young ones who today live almost about 90% of their life on social media. They are able to see in other countries what governments are doing, what services are being provided to them, so that they will relate it to their reality in Nigeria, which brings us back to the topic of conversation, why they are in a hurry to leave the shores of Nigeria to other countries.
You've raised a lot of, questions there. And like I said, Nigerians are watching, and especially the youths. And I have some text messages that just came in this morning. And one of them said, "Good morning, Nigerians. I am Gabriel Ejiafo from Lagos. Nigerians joining foreign military forces is an individual choice and cannot be a problem for anyone, neither the Nigerian government." That is the kind of response you get.
I think he got it wrong.
Yeah. And Adebayo from Jos said, "It's not right to go and take bullet for another man's country. In a country where recruitment process is based on whom you know, I think people would go wherever they would to make the land green for themselves." This kind of response brings to the fore, the mindset of the younger generation we have in Nigeria. The input of so many foreign movies, foreign books. I remember as young girls we were reading, Frederick Forsyth, Dogs of War, and all that. You just sit down, you go through these books, you imagine what is happening, and you feel that you want to go and experience it. Is that something that's happening with our youth? Experience is what they want.
Yes, it's one of those things that we have been talking about. For example, you watch movies like Gladiator.
Yes.
You watch movies...
Mission Impossible.
You watch Rambo,
yes,
where one single individual will destroy...
Commando.
Yes, so you watch all these things and then they want to say, they have opportunity now to go and practice practically, with the gadgets and so on, military missions and all those things. So, yes, the response of the two gentlemen that you have read out, you see, that is the mindset. You talked about family values, you talk about beautiful. But in the Nigeria of today, we know what is happening. Parents, all they want is for their children to be able to support the family. So when this type of opportunity comes, where you are going to earn $2,000-3,000 monthly, that translates to about almost $4 million. in a month, where you can easily send about 500,000, 1 million to your parents at home, family will jump at such opportunity. So what we need to do is to also ensure that we rearrange our social system, our society, economically, go into production, build cottage industries, build small-scale industries, engage our young, active population. I want to believe, like one of the speakers have said, one of the commentators, no young man will be attracted to going outside the shore if the necessary environment is here. They will sit down and also find alternatives and get engaged in other things. So I'm happy that the government is thinking towards that way. Last week I saw that a lot of money was voted. The Bank of Industry is being resuscitated. I think that is the way to go. We need to look into putting the necessary institutional safety nets in place. A lot of boys out there are idle. A lot of graduates from the university are unemployed. A lot of young people are frustrated. They don't really know where the next bill is going to come from. They feel very, very devastated because they can't contribute to family. Some of them cannot even take a wife or spouse because of the economic situation. So, and I think government is aware of this. And that is why a lot of programs are being put in place to address this. I think that is the way to go. If not, you leave room for this wanting to go abroad, wanting to go in search of further opportunities. And one of these is, so the countries that are recruiting these young boys, they are aware of this, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. They know that there's a ready group that can be easily lured into their country. So they are quite aware. And what do? They give them very attractive package, and then Nigerians will want to take the risk. Say, okay, if I go, and you know, modern warfare, like my colleague Dr.
What about technology?
Yes, it's about technology. The man that was arrested on the side of the Russians, he said his job basically was to be a translator, to translate in English. Most of the people that are being recruited into the Russian army to serve as a translator between, because of the shortness, they might not be able to grasp the language easily. So they will need somebody to translate. And he said that was the basic work that he was recruited into the Russian army to do. And like he said, modern warfare now is about technology, it's about drones and so on. So you might not go to the front battle where somebody is shooting at you or you are shooting at somebody. You could just be in a room manipulating computers, manipulating drones, or maybe using superior air powers. So because of that, a lot of young will say, okay, it is not like the previous warfare, like in Afghanistan or like in
Iraq or Libya,
where ground forces have to move in with all the risk. These days, warfare is very calculative. Drones are used, all kinds of technology are now used. So the young man is aware of that. So, and it's not like in the past where they say, oh, you just go and die. You go to the front. So all this is one of the motivating factors that makes them to go. But the second text, I think that person, that is the way to go. He has advised youth to also to be patriotic and also to love their country. That is very, very important, because even if you acquire the citizenship of another country, the truth of the matter is that the country of your birth still remains still have a central place in your life. So you should do everything. For example, if you acquire, you will be called a Nigerian American, for example. Or so you cannot remove that name. Look at the debate that is going on between Kemi and the Nigerian government, the leader of the Conservative Party in the UK. So you can see that.
Kemi Bada.
Yeah, Kemi. So you cannot remove the Nigerianness in you. And because of that, you have to also be very careful, because you are like anybody that is outside the shores of this country is like an ambassador of this country. And that is, I think, that is where the concern is coming. The Nigerian government may not be directly involved, but people will say, why are Nigerians going to take up military assignments in other countries? And because before you know it, it gives us a very bad image. It gives us a very bad reputation. So our Nigerian youth should understand this. Yes, the government will try as much as possible to provide alternatives, to provide the necessary enabling environment for them to thrive in this country. And I think the government is doing that, though a lot still needs to be done.
All right.
Yes.
Let's pause here for a break so that when we return, we'll take more messages and then perhaps get to General Temlong. Please don't go away. All right. Thank you for staying with us. Of course, we've been discussing Nigerians joining foreign wars, foreign militaries and foreign wars. And a lot of issues have come out of it, from the military perspective to the international relations and even to the social responsibility, civic responsibility. And more messages have come in, which we'll just immediately take before we get further into the conversation. And Victor from Jos says, honestly, you can't blame Nigerians. When you will be applying for NDA for 4 years and still not get admitted into the academy, it's naturally hard to get into the military in Nigeria. I personally have the zeal for military, but haven't been given the chance for 3 years. I have been trying to. So if I get another chance to chase my dreams, I'll also agree to go. Okay, I advise you not to. And the youth needed to be engaged in nation building by providing job for many of our unemployed. That is the reason we are having this issue. No name, but thanks. And good morning, sir. If the Nigerian government can pay the military and the police good salary, considering the risk involved in carrying out their duties, the youth will not join foreign armed forces. Thank you. And this one also without a name. The topic about Nigerians joining foreign armed forces, the main problem is in the system here in Nigeria. It is difficult to recruit young and able individuals who are interested in joining Nigerian military, in the sense that mostly is by man, no man. In the United States, if you are 17 years old and physically fit to enroll in the military, you are encouraged to join. And there are so many benefits while in service and, of course, after your service.
Yes, and
I'm not finished. I'm just looking at the number. And another says, I believe some of them join the foreign force because of the payment, but ignorance of how the other side is like. Now, most of them die there, and no one is aware of that, including their families. It says it's Philip from Lafia. And this one, Juma, I think you should take some.
Yes, I took some. Yes. Another one said, on data of Nigerians japa to war fronts, it is very sad. We have another one who said, however, our citizens, the Nigerian consulate or immigration attaché should document them, or else they may contribute to something, to fermenting crisis in future when they return back home. Another one said, good morning, Nigerians. I think most reasons why we Nigerians love to join the foreign force is that the salary they pay over there is far better than that of the Nigerian army salary. That's one from Juliton from Otukpo, Benue State. And another one said, good morning, Nigeria. The panel in the studio are right on spot. The bottom line is making our country attractive so that our youths do not need to seek alternatives elsewhere. Say hi to my friend and schoolmate Omale in the studio and Professor Wisdom Jaffet from Abu Zaria. So we now go to General Temlong. You've listened to the text messages that have been sent, and I'm sure there are young people sending these text messages. Let's get your response on that.
Well, thank you very much, Juma. It's quite unfortunate that sometimes our young men, which is not just a perception, but I think this morning I was thinking about that Nigeria today, the question of nepotism is no more an aberration like it used to be during our time. It has actually been escalated during this political period where you find out that those who are in government or their parties are in government seem to be patronized more than the other citizens, which is wrong. Once you have been elected into an office, either as a governor or as a legislator or a local government chairman, you are already a chairman or a governor for the whole state, not for your own party. But unfortunately, patronages sometimes tend towards that. And so you could see these youth, when they talk in that vein, it's part of the frustration that they talk, because probably they might not belong to one or the other. And that's, they don't get the patronages that they get. It's not uncommon to see almanacs being sent out at passing out parades in depot, in Navy, in the Air Force, or at the academy, or in this immigration, civil defense, and you see members posing with people that they are supposedly put in to the service there. And so the other people feel bad. So I think we need to look at this question again, is that this patronage must be holistic, to look, you are a Nigerian, you should be able to get and actualize your potentials based on your abilities, and not because of your political leaning or the person you know. We need to address that squarely, and I think this one goes to our political leaders. They must change that mindset from their youth. The other one, to the young man from Jos here who had tried NDA. Well, I had a friend, he's late now, he tried NDA about 6 times during our time. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. It's not because there was any, during our time, there was no patronages like you think, that people think exists now. But he just couldn't make it. So he gave up. So I think sometimes you want to go, but it might not be what you are cut out to do. So you try to find out what is your purpose in this world. It's not probably just to serve in the armed forces alone that gives you satisfaction. Yes, you might love it, but you might not be cut out for it. Sometimes you might have an a health-related problem. It could be an academic problem. It could be that probably your height might not even be up to, or you could even have your physique, flat foot, knock this and the rest, because they don't allow you to jump. If you're flat foot, you cannot jump from a height. You might die, because when you land flat, you snap and die. So those are the things that probably prevent you. So I think in as much as you want to join the system, I also give some room to the fact that yes, you might not be that, but might be what God has carved you out to do. The other one, like I said, it's true that the payment system here in our armed forces and even after is not the same as what is obtained outside. We are growing, and I believe the government is listening. The president has been listening. He has tried to do what it is within the limited resources, but they could do more, because when you say somebody taking bullet for you, it means then that man has already given up his life. And we have a lot of retired people who are suffering from PTSD. We just saw one report that came out from UK, where you have a lot of retired people who, after retiring, they are suffering from the shocks of fire. That even the ones that they fired and those that are falling on them.
Thank you, General. We'll get back to you as soon as the signal improves. Let me get back to Dr. Kabir Adamu. Perhaps I should get to Dr. Kabir Adamu with the last set of messages that I got here. This is quite long, but I'll just bridge. He said, good morning, Juma and Victor. The hard truth is what Brigadier General Temlong and Dr. Kabir, all the guests said. He said, provide alternatives for our youths. And then went on to say, like in the newspaper review by Chukwudi this morning, don't train best doctors who will be gainfully employed by foreign countries. Okay? This one reads, good morning. Nothing bad if anybody joins foreign forces. They will get more international experience and also get paid more. And most of them feel that they are not safe joining Nigerian forces because of insurgency. Right? I'm not sure. Then from Chinedu Eze in Anambra, he said Nigerians joining foreign armed forces share similar reasons with professionals like doctors, engineers, etc. Okay. Dr. Kabir.
One thing I would say is we, to a large extent, cannot stop foreign migration. It is, in some instances, a right, as long as it's done legally.
Yeah.
It is a right if you want to migrate and you've met the conditions of migrating. But I think the challenge, and we need to bring this out, is the rights of the particular profession. Unfortunately, from what we are learning, there are instances where Nigerians are being misled. They do not know their rights. For instance, your right as a citizen working for another country in its military is very different from your rights as a mercenary, which I think my co-discussant has clarified adequately. So at the time the Nigerian decides to migrate and serve, let's say, in the Russian or Ukrainian army, is he aware of these differences? Has that been clarified to him? Or is it at the point when he is arrested that the reality now hits him? Because at the end of the day, he's still a Nigerian, depending on, for instance, on what the circumstances of his engagement by that country. So this should be kind of the focus of our conversation, the consequence of the involvement of that Nigerian. And I think in the advocacy that has been recommended by General Temlong and a lot of us here, that should be perhaps the essence. You are migrating and you are going to serve in the military. Do you know your rights? And are you doing it legally, or you are doing it for other reasons? And are you aware of the consequences? Because it's a conflict. You could die, you could be arrested, which probably would be the best case scenario. And I'm very happy to note that in recent times we've seen prisoner exchange between the two countries. The most recent happening last week.
Thousands.
So there are positive sides to it, but everybody who is venturing into that should go with a level of awareness that allows him or her to know that these are the consequences, and then this would be the benefit, quote and unquote, for me. If a family, and I think my co-discussant did mention this, if a family is encouraging its children to go and get involved in a foreign country, have they sat down to study and understand the consequences of that involvement? The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is there. They have a huge role to play in this regard. What kind of advocacy, what kind of awareness, working hand in hand with the Ministry of Information and National Orientation Agency, which brings me to the point I must commend NTA for this program, because of course it's an aspect of this advocacy. Through this program, more Nigerians will be aware of what's going on, and hopefully our youth too would be more aware. Again, nobody can stop migration, but it must be done consciously and with
you talked about legality, and I'm wondering, what is there legality as a Nigerian just getting up and going to fight in another country? Is it legal, or is it expressly illegal?
So I think but let me make this point. There are about 4 levels of determining this legality. First off, the individual level. There are inalienable rights that as a global citizen you have, which is why the point of migration is an inalienable right, but it must be done legally. The second one is bilateral, and I think he's mentioned that. In certain instances, there are bilateral agreements between two countries that will allow that. He gave the example of North Korea and Russia. The third one is the let's even start with the continental multilateral agreements. As far as I know, there is an AU protocol that completely bans mercenaries. And of course, we saw instances in the past where South Africa, for instance, produced a lot of mercenaries, some of whom have even ventured into Nigeria in the past. So there is an AU protocol clearly, and if I'm right, there's also an ECOWAS one that bans mercenaries. So that's at the continental or sub-regional level. Then at the multilateral level, the Geneva Convention, as an example, is very clear on the legality or illegality of mercenaries. So to that extent, the law is very clear on the positions. But where it becomes complex is the person going as a mercenary or he's going as a recruited member of the army of that country. Those are two different circumstances, and we need to be clear. In my opinion, and from the little that I know, those who were recruited into the Ukrainian or Russian army were not recruited as citizens of that country and as members of the military of that country. They were given special statuses. And this is where I think we missed the opportunity when the adverts were placed. We should have engaged and understood on what basis are our citizens going to serve in those countries. If they are going as members of that military and we don't see anything stopping them, they are individuals, they are not going representing Nigeria, perhaps the case would have been easy.
And that says a lot about intelligence.
What's the implication, the legal implication?
Yes, like I said earlier, the legal implication is basically that if you are going as a mercenary, you will be treated as a mercenary. In case you are caught during the conflict, you do not have any protection from the international community. It will be left, you will be treated as every other mercenary will be treated. You don't have the protection of the international law.
No, but back home, are you committing an offense? That's what I mean.
Should they be prosecuted? Or
If they come back, when they return, should they be received with open arms or be prosecuted, for instance?
Well, the Nigerian law, as far as I'm concerned, do not allow it. Do not allow you to join as a foreign mercenary. But it cannot stop you from acquiring dual citizenship. That is why he was saying the Nigerian law recognizes dual citizenship. So, and if you have dual citizenship, there's nothing stopping you from joining the foreign army. But if you are going as a foreign mercenary, that is where the Nigerian law do not permit, and also international law do not permit. But what I needed to respond to one or two issues. The risk factor is very, very important. You take a risk, you go to an unknown land where you are exposed to a lot of danger. You could die suddenly without any trace, without any package, for your family, your dependents. You just pick your bag and then you find yourself in the front lines. You could be traumatized. You could be injured fatally. Lose your limbs, lose your part of your body, your sight or something. And all of a sudden, the dream or the adventure you have gone to, you discover that it was a very bad
nightmare.
Yes, it was a nightmare. So our young people should know, just like Doc has said, that the risk far outweighs the advantage.
The benefits.
Yeah, the benefit. Yes, you might be looking at it from pecuniary reasons. Oh, I will make money, I'll make money. But what will it profit you when you go and you lose the landmine, blow off your legs, and you suddenly find yourself incapacitated? So our young people must know this, and that's why I like what Doc has talked about. What are the conditions? Most times you are not told explicitly what you are going to experience there. They only make it look rosy, but you are pushed to the front battle while they are shielding their own citizens. Most of those that are recruited now, the danger of having dual citizenship is, and let me make it very clear. You will not be trusted by the country that is recruiting you because they are not too sure what you can do. Okay. And then your own country too will begin to look at you in another way. So you are neither here nor there. You are just in what they call political cul-de-sac.
Okay, Dr. Omale, thank you. Let's go to General Temlong. Let's have your final thoughts. How can the Nigerian government, through this kind of discussions we're having, change the narrative and the mindset of the Nigerian youth?
Thank you very much. I want to commend the NTA for what you are doing, because these are part of the enlightenment programs that you are bringing to the fore what is happening in this country. So keep up what you are doing in Good Morning Nigeria and other programs. The National Orientation Agency is doing a great job now. We were with them at the National Security Seminar in National Defense College, organized by the alumni last month. And they real out what they are doing, which is working towards that. And I think Some of these contemporary issues could be captured by them. And the most important thing, and lastly, is that the government must take a holistic approach to make sure that they build up a citizen that is both responsive and is receptive to what they are doing. It's not just talking without providing the wherewithal for the youth. The family is very important, but it's very unfortunate these days. It is the parents that are sending these children into harm's way. It is the parents sometimes are sending the girls into prostitution. The risk factor that our colleague talked about there, they don't care. People go through Libya, the desert, die in the desert. Their jackals eat them. There are no grave, nothing. You see the risk they take to cross the Mediterranean. I think we need to go back to the value system, to our families, to make sure that there is value for life itself, and that there is dignity in labor. So thank you very much for this great job you are doing, and keep it up. Well done. Thank you, Jumai.
So much, Brigadier General John Temlong, Pioneer Commander, Multinational Joint Task Force. Thank you so much for your insight and perspective into this conversation. I'm sure it's a continuous conversation on other programs in NTA. And Dr. Adoyi Matthew Omale, International Relations Expert, as usual, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Having you so much. Thank you so much. And Dr. Kabiru Adamu, Security Risk Management Expert, as always, you dug deep into the issue and brought to the fore issues that I believe the government officials will be watching this program and will be implemented. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thank you so much for your time. I am Jumai Yusuf.
And I'm Victor Azu. Thank you so very much for watching. Tomorrow is another day. Let's keep the date.